What is going on, guys? Welcome back to another Detroit Lions video. Now, Detroit Lions training camp is pretty much in the books, as the Detroit Lions, along with every other NFL team, need to slim the roster down to 53 men by 4 p.m. today, and the Detroit Lions have already started to do that. However, throughout training camp this year, just like every other year, there have been players that have really separated themselves. Guys that have broken out in training camp and just had, very unexpected and very pleasantly surprising training camps that, whether it be rookies, free agents, or just veterans of the team that have taken the next step, these guys have just exceeded expectations. These guys have excelled in training camp and are so far ahead of where they were last season, or so far ahead of where people had expectations for them this season, that I had to give them credit today in this video. Now, before we do get into talking about these players, if you are new to the channel and are enjoying the content, consider liking the videos and subscribing to the channel, as it takes only 2 seconds out of your day, and it helps me push this Detroit Lions content out to more Detroit Lions fans such as yourselves. So if you could take those 2 seconds, I would be super appreciative, and it would help the channel out a lot. But with all that being said, let's get into talking about the top 5 training camp performances this year for the Detroit Lions. Now, the first player I want to highlight is Quintez Cephus. Now, I know I already made a whole separate video on Quintez Cephus' training camp so far, and I tried not to do this a lot. This is the only player that I have made a video on so far, but Quintez Cephus' training camp has just been elite so far, and it needs to be mentioned again because even though he's had this elite training camp, I still feel like people are underestimating Quintez Cephus, and it needs to stop because this dude is balling in training camp, and he is about to go dominate the NFL. Now, Quintez Cephus showed up to training camp as a 5th-round rookie out of the University of Wisconsin, where he couldn't even manage to get 1,000 yards in college. So a lot of people were thinking, okay, depth wide receiver is going to be competition, might not even make the team as a 5th-round selection. Some people like myself were very high on Quintez Cephus, but a lot of Detroit Lions fans, a lot of NFL fans that didn't follow Wisconsin, didn't follow Quintez Cephus, don't know a whole lot about him. We're just going to say, all right, well, he's going to be average at best, depth wide receiver, okay pickup. However, Quintez Cephus showed up to training camp and dominated is dominated since day one. Quintez Cephus showed up to training camp, hit the ground running, and hasn't slowed down, as this guy in training camp is getting elite separation. This dude is catching everything that comes his way, and showed up to training camp as a guy that a lot of people thought might not make the roster, and is leaving training camp as one of the major 6 wide receivers that pretty much guaranteed to make the team and is guaranteed to have a role in this offense this season. I mean, his progression from being a 5th-round rookie out of Wisconsin to now being potentially a focal point of this Detroit Lions offense in the 2020 season is so phenomenal. It's such a great story. Seeing this progression so quickly from Quintez Cephus, seeing him dominate at the NFL level as quickly as he is, I had to mention him again because his training camp has been so impressive that it just needs to be restated once again. Now, moving on to the second player that has dominated training camp, we got TJ Hockenson, the 2nd-year tight end out of the University of Iowa. Now, last season, Detroit Lions fans know all about TJ Hockenson. He showed flashes in the first game where he broke the rookie tight end receiving yardage record with 131 yards and a touchdown. I mean, this dude broke records in his first game, looked absolutely unstoppable, and looked like he was going to be the next Rob Gronkowski, the next Tony Gonzalez, the next great Hall of Fame tight end. And then he, continued those flashes throughout the rest of the regular season until his season-ending injury. However, they were very far and few between. We saw the guy from Arizona throughout the regular season after week 1. We saw the guy that can make great catches. We saw the guy that can get wide open over the middle and get great yards after catch. But we also didn't see it enough. We didn't see it consistently enough for TJ Hockenson to be put in that elite tight end group just yet. Again, we saw the flashes. We didn't see the consistency. Now, in the offseason, TJ Hockenson reached out to George Kittle, and he and George Kittle had been working a lot in this offseason, bulking up and getting ready for the 2020 NFL season. TJ Hockenson came into training camp looking a lot bigger, a lot stronger than he did in his rookie season, and he has performed like it. He has performed like he has been practicing with the all-pro tight end throughout the entire offseason, and it is looking really, really good for TJ Hockenson. TJ Hockenson, as I said, looks the part, but he, showed up at the training camp playing better than ever before, as this dude is just catching everything that is thrown his way, whether it be, a little overthrown, a little underthrown, perfectly on the mark. TJ Hockenson is catching everything that is in his vicinity. I mean, it doesn't matter if it's a good throw, a bad throw, it doesn't matter if he's wide open or the DB is draped all over him. TJ Hockenson is coming down with every single catch that is thrown his way. And last year we saw some, drops. We saw that drop in Green Bay that would have been a touchdown. We've seen, a couple drops last season where he probably should have caught it and the DB was just able to break it up. This year, that doesn't seem to be the case, as TJ Hockenson, even in highly contested coverages, is catching touchdown passes. Is catching these great contested footballs and he just looks so much better than where he was last year. As I mentioned, we saw the flashes last year, but this year it just seems like he's shining the whole time. We're not seeing flashes. We're seeing him, consistently defeat defensive backs. We're seeing him consistently beat safeties and cornerbacks, whether he's lined up on the outside, on the boundary, or in the slot, which the Detroit Lions have done both of. He's dominating every single place he is put on the field, and I think TJ Hockenson is just primed for a breakout season, and I would not be surprised if we see TJ Hockenson mentioned in that elite tight end category by the end of the season, because he's put in the work in the offseason. He's bulked up, he's put on the muscle, he's worked with the All-Pros, and now in training camp, he is dominating the Detroit Lions secondary, which was supposed to be revamped and is supposed to be a much better unit than what we saw last season. Now, getting on to the third training camp performer, I have Tracy Walker on this list. Now, I've talked about Tracy Walker a little bit in daily recap videos, but Tracy Walker, has been dominating training camp. And when I say dominating, I don't mean like, oh, he's been having a couple of plays here and there. Like, this dude has been shutting down every single tight end that he's played against. This dude, in whether it be one-on-one drills or team drills, has shut down every single tight end, including TJ Hockenson, who we just talked about. I just mentioned how great TJ Hockenson's camp has been. Tracy Walker has consistently been shutting down TJ Hockenson in training camp. In the 1v1s I talked about a few days ago, Tracy Walker was a 1v1 where TJ Hockenson, and Tracy Walker had such tight coverage that Matthew Stafford didn't even decide to test him. Matthew Stafford didn't even throw the ball and give TJ a chance, because he knew that if he threw it, it was going to get interception, it was going to get batted down, and there was no point in even attempting it because the chances of him completing it were zero. I mean, Tracy Walker, whether it be against TJ Hockenson, Jesse James, Isaac Nauta, Hunter Bryant, or any of the other tight ends that he's played against in 1v1s or team drills, he has shut down. He has absolutely, not allowed any catches in his vicinity. Talk about TJ Hockenson catching everything. Tracy Walker is breaking up everything. You just hear stories about Tracy Walker. If you look anything up about his training camp, he's breaking things up. As I mentioned, the story about Matthew Stafford, he didn't even throw it. And we know how much Matthew Stafford likes to throw those contested catches. We know how tight of windows Matthew Stafford can fit it in. And if Matthew Stafford doesn't want to throw the ball, that's how you know it's good coverage. Tracy Walker has been shutting down everybody in training camp so far, just like TJ Hockenson. Tracy Walker is one of those breakout candidates that a lot of Detroit Lions fans are thinking might have that breakout season. So, having this great training camp, having, the ability to shut down TJ Hockenson, having the ability to shut down every other player that he has gone against in 1v1 and team drills is a great sign for Tracy Walker. And that shows me he is developing even more than where he was last year. Last year, he led the team in tackles. He was arguably the best player on that defense last season, and he has gotten significantly better in training camp. And if he takes this play into the 2020 season, by the end of the year, he is going to be talked about as one of the NFL's elite safeties. Now, moving on to the fourth player that has had a very good training camp. This is a guy that has flown very under the radar since he's been picked up by the Detroit Lions, and that guy is Tony McRae. Now, you're gonna hear that name and say that doesn't really fit with some of the other guys, but Tony McRae has had an impressive training camp of his own. Now, Tony McRae is a free agent that we brought over from the Cincinnati Bengals. He followed his former special teams coordinator, Braden Coombs, from the Cincinnati Bengals to the Detroit Lions, and Tony McRae came into the Detroit Lions training camp. He came into the organization, and a lot of people put him at the bottom of the roster. A lot of people had him, not even making the roster by the end of training camp. A lot of people were just like, yeah, he's a camp body. He's going to be here and compete on the special teams, but he probably won't make the roster. Nothing, he's not going to make that big of an impact on the team. However, throughout training camp, Tony McRae has not only exceeded on special teams where he thrives, obviously coming over from a special teams in Cincinnati where they were the best special teams unit in the NFL with the same special teams coordinator that he followed from Cincinnati. We expected him to have this great special teams performance. We expected him to excel on special teams because he's familiar with the system, he's familiar with the coordinator, and he should just have a step ahead of everybody else who isn't quite as familiar. However, he's been doing that in training camp. Don't get me wrong. He has been performing on special teams and looking like one of the best special teams players we have, but he's also been performing in cornerback drills as he has broken up multiple passes throughout the first 3 weeks of training camp. He's just, not been shutting down people like Tracy Walker or Amani or Awarie, but he has had his fair share of pass breakups. He has had his fair share of really big plays for this Detroit Lions offense, or for this Detroit Lions defense. And whether it be against the second or third string guys, they're all NFL talent, and he's consistently getting these pass breakups. He's consistently playing very good cornerback play, and bringing in a guy that can do that, bringing in a guy that brings both special teams value and defensive value to a team. It holds so much value because that's two positions in one. You can have a guy play cornerback and gunner, and that's two positions positions filled for the price of one. And Tony McRae came into training camp as the guy that was at the bottom of the depth chart, the guy that wasn't supposed to even make the roster, and he has surpassed D. Virgin, he has surpassed Mike Ford, he has surpassed Michael Jackson, who's already been traded. And I mean, this dude has climbed the depth chart so much in 3 weeks, and he has just proven himself a vital part of the Detroit Lions special teams, and he is going to be a reason that the Detroit Lions special team is a powerful unit in the 2020 season. You know, the Detroit Lions had a good special teams unit last year, but adding Tony McRae, a guy that excels on special teams, is going to make the special teams so much better for the Detroit Lions, especially since he has that familiarity already. And I mean, he's just had such a good training camp. It hasn't necessarily been the flashiest. It hasn't been, you know, good enough for him to be the starting #1 cornerback. It hasn't been enough on defense for him to, you know, maybe expect to see a lot of playing time on the defensive side of the ball. But for a guy that came over and wasn't even supposed to make the team, he has outperformed everybody's expectations. And the fact that he's already beat out 3 other cornerbacks, in my opinion, and has, you know, pretty much solidified himself as a roster spot is just very impressive to me. And I think he needed to be mentioned. Now, the 5th and final player that has had one of the best training camps that I have seen out of the Detroit Lions in a while is Taylor Decker. A lot of Detroit Lions fans are very mixed on Taylor Decker. Some people say he's average, some people say he's below average, some people say he's above average, but, you know, everybody kind of has him in that average tier. You know, everybody could agree that Taylor Decker is pretty average as a left tackle. However, Taylor Decker throughout his training camp so far has played elite. And I'm not talking above average, slightly above average. I'm talking elite tackle play, and he was rewarded with it as he got a 6-year, $85 million contract extension with the Detroit Lions just a few days ago. Now, I say he's playing elite. Taylor Decker has shut down every single player he's gone against, whether it be a defensive tackle, a defensive end, a blitzing linebacker. Taylor Decker has shut down everybody, including Trey Flowers, who just an offseason ago, got 4 years, $90 million to come over and be the #1 pass rusher in Detroit. I think every Detroit Lions fan can agree that Trey Flowers is our most efficient and our best pass rusher. He is, you know, a top 15, top 10 pass rusher in the NFL, top edge rusher in the NFL. I think everybody can agree on that. And Taylor Decker has shut him down and only given up one pressure that was very questionable, very debatable throughout the entirety of training camp. I mean, this dude just seems like he's playing on another level, and whether that was for his contract extension or whether it's because he's fully healed from the injury he had a few years ago, or just whether he's figured it out in his 5th year in the NFL after having a full offseason to train with Trey Flowers, after having a full camp or full 2 camps, having the ability to practice with one of the best edge rushers in the NFL and study the tape. I mean, it just, for one reason or another, Taylor Decker has started playing elite football, and he was rewarded for it with a big contract extension. Now, I don't know if Taylor Decker is going to carry this play over to the regular season, but if he does, he's going to absolutely earn that contract because, you know, people hate the contract, some people don't like it, but at the end of the day, it wasn't that bad of a contract, and he, in my opinion, is going to live up to it, especially if he can take his training camp play and carry it over to the 2020 NFL regular season. Now, those were my 5 big training camp performers. Now, obviously, there were other guys like Jason Hunley. There were other guys like Matthew Stafford and Kenny Galladay who were balling. There were guys, you know, like DeAndre Swift and other rookies that have been having very good training camps when healthy. But these were the 5 guys that I felt really stood out to me. These are the 5 guys that, you know, we haven't talked about a lot, with the exception of Quintez Cephus, of course. These are guys that we haven't talked about a lot. These are guys that, you know, haven't necessarily been getting the most recognition, you know, out of the Detroit Lions community. And these are guys that I just felt have had such good training camps, have played so good throughout the past 3 weeks that they just needed their recognition. They needed their time and spotlight. And the Detroit Lions fans need to know that these players are legit. These players have stepped up, whether it be out of college or out of, you know, a different team, or just stepping up in their 2nd, 3rd, or 4th years of NFL play. These players are stepping up. These players are developing, and these players are going to be key contributors for the Detroit Lions organization in the 2020 season. Now, with all that being said, that is all I got for you guys today. Let me know what you guys think about these training camps down in the comments below. Who did I miss? What training camps did I not talk about that deserve to be talked about? And, you know, did I screw up? And was there a guy on here that you don't believe deserved a spot as a top 5 training camp performer? Let me know that down in the comments below. But with all that being said, that is all I got for you guys today. If there is Lions news before tomorrow, I'll obviously make a video letting every single person know. But until then, that is all I got for you guys today. I hope you guys enjoyed the video and had an absolutely fantastic rest of your day. If there is no Detroit Lions news, I will see you all tomorrow with more Detroit Lions content. But until then, that's all I got for you guys right now. I'll see you tomorrow. Bye, guys.